Welcome to Auto PV. Our AutoCAD plugin is designed to optimize the design process for residential and small commercial projects. If you would like to follow along, feel free to download the drawing file in the description below. Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to go over the PVATT command, or PVAttach. So the PVAttach command is basically I'm going to utilize the landscape panel, portrait panels, the blocks, and the attachment block, as well as the array layer. The obstructions and rafters will all already be generated, but all these layers are basically going to be visible when we're adding in our attachments. So we're going to start off with just a basic roof here. Just zoom in a little bit. And then we're going to start off with the PVATT. And first it's going to ask you to select the panels. So here we'll already have the panels placed. You'll see the rafters behind the panels, and the boundaries, not necessary, but it's here, just because that was part of what we used to generate the array. And we're going to select everything. Hit enter. It's going to ask for the attachment spacing. There's some default options here for 6 feet and for 4 feet. You can also enter whatever spacing you need. So in this case, I'll just put 6 feet. And then do we want it inline or staggered? So inline will basically be having all the attachments in line. You'll see them from top row to the bottom row. From top rail to bottom rail within a row, the attachments are going to be in line. I'll show you the example with having them staggered. So PVATT, select the panels. If we're going to keep 6 feet, I can just hit enter, and then we're going to go with staggered. And then here you'll see the first top row is going to be 6 feet apart between the attachments, and the next one is going to be 4 feet apart. And then from there, we're looking at the bottom row here. You see it's going to be 6 feet between here, and then for the top rail, it's going to be 6 feet between there. So it maintains 6 feet throughout the rest of the row. It just makes sure that you don't have them aligned and you don't have a lot of attachments on one rafter, basically. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It just adds the attachments on all the panels that you select, and all the panels that you select will have the same parameters. So I'll show you here. It doesn't matter the orientation. PVATT. If I wanted all of these here at 6 feet and inline, then I select those. If I wanted the rest of these panels here at 48 inches and staggered, I can do that, and it'll add the attachments here 48 inches apart. These are too close, so it doesn't add another one in the middle. Otherwise, all of these are 48 inches apart and they're staggered. If I go over to a roof like this one, I can select them all at the same time. So I select everything, hit enter. If they all have the same parameters, they're all going to be 72 inches apart. They're all going to be inline or staggered. I select that, so I'm going to just switch it to inline, and it goes through and it adds all the attachments. Now, if there are some areas like here where we have 2 attachments that are 4 feet apart, it's because that other rafter that would have made it, 6 feet apart is outside of the panel, like outline. So it just basically comes back into the nearest rafters. So it'll always land on the rafters that are underneath the panels, if that makes sense. The only thing to keep an eye out for, I'll show you, see if we come across this later, but I'll show you an example here. So if I add one panel, and let's just say I have it here. So PVATT, you can see this doesn't matter the angle that the panels are in or the orientation. You have a bunch of different groups here, some portrait, some landscape, some portrait and landscape facing south east, some facing southwest. And then we're going to go ahead and do 48 inches, and we're just going to do an inline. And you'll notice it'll add in all the attachments. You'll notice on individual panels, the command is basically just recognizing the rafters that are underneath the panels. So typically, if you do come across a single panel, array or single panel section that just lands between the panels, between the rafters, I mean, and doesn't go over them. So because our panel here is, 3 feet 4 inches wide, and the rafters are 4 feet wide, then no matter how much, you try, it's not going to reach from one rafter to the next to get 48 inches. So if we had caught that ahead of time, we can just move the panel over slightly, make sure that it's right over 2 rafters, like it should be. PVATT command, select everything again, and we're going to keep it 4 feet and keep it in line. And then now you'll see that it adds 2 sets of attachments here. So just keep that in mind when you are adding in your attachments, that you don't want to accidentally forget to look at the single panel arrays. So yeah, that's the residential side. And then on the commercial side, it's basically the same thing. It doesn't matter the quantity of panels that you have. I'll do all of these at once. So select your panels. I select everything, and I can already see here that there's this single panel here that's by itself over 1 rafter. If I nudge it over a little bit to make it over 2, then it kind of solved the problem ahead of time. PVATT command, select everything, and we're going to do these at 8 feet apart, and we'll do them inline, and then it just adds in all the attachments there. So we'll just double check between here and here. Feet, and then between the start and end, if you don't have 8 feet, you just basically always throw in attachments at the last rafter. So the last rafter, where on the panel edge, it's going to throw 2 attachments on the right side, then 2 attachments on the left side. So just like here. No. These are 6 feet apart. These are 2 feet apart. And let's just say each roof section for some reason has different spacing. So in this case, you have excuse me, these rafters are 2 feet apart. These are 1 foot apart. Over here, you have 18 inches. And then down here, these are 2 feet apart. So if you're doing your attachment plan, want to select all your panels, hit enter, and let's just say you want to do every other rafter, but you don't want to try and figure out, what is every other rafter for 24 inches apart. You would just click basically between 2 panels, or 2 rafters. So from here to here, and then hit inline, and it will just add one every other rafter. So for 24 inches, it's pretty straightforward. Every other rafter is 48 inches apart. Your rafters are 24, and then every other rafter is 48 inches apart. For 1 foot rafter spacing, we'll do the same thing. PVATT command, select your panels. And let's just say these, you wanted them at like 7 feet apart. Not common, but if that's what is recommended, or if that's what you wanted to do, you just enter in that value and it will set your attachments at 7 feet apart. Same thing over here. If you have these at 18 inches, select all your panels. The distance, if you wanted to do them every rafter, you could, or you could do them every other rafter. It just depends on what the requirements are. But let's just say you did them every other rafter. You hit inline, and there it just lays out all the attachments for you. And then down here, I'm going to repeat the command one more time, and we'll go back to our normal settings. We're going to just do 6 feet, and let's just say these are staggered. Then it just lays out all the attachments staggered on here. So if you have different roof sections that have different attachment parameters, you can basically set that all up, or if they all have the same parameters, you just select everything at once. I'll show you, I'll just go back and just show you, we can do them all the same. So I can do PVATT, select my panels, hit enter, and they're all going to be 6 feet, and they're all going to be staggered. Now we just go through and we can check, these are 6 feet apart. You can see that they're staggered here. These down here are 6 feet apart. These here, they are 6 feet apart as well. And then over here, they're a little over, and that's just because when you have an 18-inch rafter spacing, it's not going to be able to hit exactly 6 feet. So I think right now it's just set up to go over the amount as opposed to under. But maybe when you do have an odd roof spacing or rafter spacing, you would just set that roof section manually, rather than trying to everything at once. But yeah, that's the attachment command. Again, this is pretty straightforward in terms of number of operations. It's select your panels, set the spacing, and then you pick between inline or staggered. Thank you for watching. If you would like to purchase our product, feel free to go to our website. It's linked in the description below. If you would like to leave a comment or provide any feedback, you can do that below or directly on our website. Thank you for your support, and stay tuned for more. Thank you.